Alec Yanisco and his 18-year-old friend, Joe Del Vecchio, when they decided to go for a fun ride on their ATVs. They were no strangers to the roads and the terrain in the area, as they often went out to ride ATVs in the evening. Little did they know that this ride was about to bring something unexpected into their lives. Local hikers and quad riders usually met at a popular spot in the woods near the homes of Yanisco and Del Vecchio. The boys had visited that same spot numerous times, and they expected the visit to be just as usual. However, they certainly didn't expect to make a life-changing discovery on the road. They simply went on with their plans with the intention to have a good time doing what they love most. The boys drove into the woods, and it didn't take long for them to notice something strange lurking in the distance. As they approached the mysterious object, they realized what they had found was an abandoned car. However, this was more than just an abandoned car. As soon as the boys saw it, they knew something strange was going on. The sight before them carried an unsettling atmosphere that they couldn't ignore. What made the boys interested in the newly discovered car was the fact that the vehicle was a quarter of a mile away from the nearest road. The fact that it was randomly placed so far away from the road seemed strange. It was evident that something was not right at the scene, which made the boys eager to investigate even further. Upon closer inspection, Yanisco and Del Vecchio made another shocking discovery. As they approached the car, they noticed it wasn't only abandoned, but it was also stuck on the road. The discovery made the scene even more mysterious. Something unexplainable urged the boys to look into the situation even further, in hopes to reveal clues that could lead to discovering what had happened. Even though it was getting dark outside, the boys decided to stay at the scene and continue investigating the abandoned car. Further discoveries brought new questions that needed to be answered. The boys quickly noticed that some of the car's windows were crashed and the vehicle itself was stuck on a log. What made the whole situation even more mysterious was the fact that there was no one near the car or in the area at all. Where was the driver? Was there anyone in the car with them? What could have forced them to leave the car? After inspecting the outside of the vehicle and the areas nearby, the boys decided to look for clues that could indicate the identity of the person who was in the car. They took time to check the trunk, the seating area, and the additional compartments, and hoped to find any ID or piece of paper that could serve as a clue. Finally, they came across a clue that gave their investigation a whole new direction. What they found was a Sam's Club retail card which belonged to a person named Edwin Kosick. Even though this was by far the best clue they found, the boys weren't really sure where to go from there. They knew the name of the person who owned the car, but they couldn't be sure whether that person was in the car at the time of the accident, or if there even was an accident. Their next move was to make a quick Facebook search in hopes to find the man who owned the retail cart. Finding this person would lead to revealing new clues and information as to what had happened in the woods. After hitting the search button, the boys revealed the biggest clue so far. They certainly found important information about the man named Edwin Kosick, but were the search results enough to clarify the mystery of the abandoned car? Surprisingly, the Facebook search resulted in numerous news reports about Kosick. Apparently, Edward Kosick was a 92-year-old man who was also a respected federal judge. The most shocking discovery they made was the man named Edward Kosick was missing for the previous 2 days. Are they now a part of the investigation? Was the car they accidentally came across an important clue in the federal investigation? They were about to find out. Even though the new information shed some light on the situation and made it clear that things weren't right at the scene, the boys still had no idea what it all meant. One thing was for sure, they were so scared of their new discovery that they rushed home right away. The boys found the car, but they never found the missing old man. After all, they were not sure how important the car was in the whole case of missing Edwin Kosick. The boys couldn't keep their discovery to themselves, so they decided to tell their parents about what they had found in the woods. The parents immediately called the police to get an official investigation started. The officers came soon after and asked the boys to take them to the abandoned vehicle, which they gladly did. However, even the police were not able to find any trace of the old man in the area where the car was discovered. I was a little scared, Yanisco told the Times-Tribune in April 2017. I didn't think they'd find him alive. A large search party was organized soon after in hopes to discover new clues as to where the judge might be. The whole situation escalated quickly, and the search got far larger than the boys had expected. The police included special teams and trained dogs as an attempt to find any piece of information that would allow the search to continue. The whole town was filled with posters and highway message boards about the missing man, which made the locals very concerned. "I'm shocked. I'm very upset because he's a great man and we don't want anything to happen to him," said Georgia Fish of Madison Township. Even the people who never knew Edwin were worried because of the whole situation. Georgia Fish was one of those people who knew Edwin, and she even drove around town on her own in hopes to help the investigation and find any clues. "I've gone up the mountain, Aston Mountain, checking the back roads and stuff, just seeing if he made a wrong turn somewhere and got lost," she added. The police stated that communications with the family has revealed that Judge Kosick has taken medication to aid in memory loss. U.S. Marshals later received a potential clue. They confirmed that a 91-year-old man might have been seen on the Pennsylvania Turnpike headed toward New Jersey. The case got so serious that even the FBI insisted to join the investigation. After all, Kosick served as a judge on the federal branch in Scranton for over 30 years, and he was a very respected man in the area. There was no doubt that they truly wanted to find him. One of the largest clues in the investigation was a surveillance video that clearly showed Judge Kosick heading toward the Bill's ShopRite in Covington Township, but the store was closed. This footage dates back to a night before he went missing. After filing the reports and receiving this information, the police conducted a thorough search in the area around Kosick's last known whereabouts. According to a trustworthy source, the judge disappeared from his home near Scranton around 1:30 a.m. The legal community in Scranton was shocked by the recent events and Kosick's disappearance. Chris Powell, the attorney who argued in front of Judge Kosick for decades, said, "We want to know what happened to him, and everybody has their opinion, as lawyers among themselves. I was just over in court this morning, and it's on everybody's mind." The whole community was worried about the situation and prayed for Kosick to be alive and well. According to the video footage, Kosick was wearing jeans and a blue winter coat when he was last seen in the area. After speaking to Judge Kosick's family, the United States Marshal, Martin Payne, said that the police came to some new information that might have affected Kosick's disappearance, but they still couldn't rule out criminal activity as one of the potential circumstances. The search continued after the police sent a helicopter to fly over the Covington Township area in hopes to find new clues. The locals were kindly asked to report any strange sight or activity to 911. The investigators also asked people in the town to contact the police if they had seen Kosick or his car prior to the disappearance. Kosick's son was especially worried about the situation. He believed that his father's disappearance had something to do with his memory loss issues. Assuming that his father simply forgot where he was and wandered outside alone, Kosick's son was concerned about the cold weather and the conditions his father might have been in. The whole situation escalated quickly, and the detectives had to do something that would move the investigation forward. They used all media channels to inform the public about the judge's disappearance and kindly ask for any new information to be reported. Kosick's face was all over the television, but his son wasn't sure whether this would lead to any new clues. Luckily for Kosick and his family, one of the trained police dogs was on terrain when the police got near the missing man. The search dog was able to pick up the man's smell and led a team of policemen to the judge. Believe it or not, Judge Kosick was only about 100 yards away from the whole scene the entire time. It was a shock for the two boys to hear that the man was located so close to the car they had found. When they found him, Kosick was lying on the ground, and luckily he was still breathing. Even though he had spent days in terrible conditions, Kosick was still able to coherently communicate with the officers, and he even noticed that one of the marshals had his hair cut recently. Everyone was happy that the old man was found alive, but they were all eager to find out what had happened to him. What forced Judge Kosick to spend days outside lying on the ground in the woods? During an interview for a news channel, the police said that the old man had likely spent 2 days all alone prior to being found. "I don't know exactly how long he was in this state for, but it was very possible that he was there the whole time," the police officer added. At the time he was found, Kosick was wearing the same jeans and the same winter jacket he wore 2 days earlier when he was last seen. This indicated that he had spent 2 days helplessly lying on the ground in the cold. The emergency team was not sure whether Kosick had any injuries, but so they hospitalized him for further medical checks. Even without any new injuries, the judge must have had a hard time because, as his son Michael Kosick said, he was recovering from serious rib injuries he had sustained 2 years prior to this incident. To make sure everything was okay, an ambulance vehicle quickly transported Kosick to the Geisinger Community Medical Center. Professional medical staff at the center proceeded with further tests to establish whether the man had any serious injuries. After the tests were done, the staff informed the news team that the patient was in fair condition. Everyone was happy to hear that Judge Kosick was doing well, but this information hadn't cracked the mystery yet. No one knew what exactly happened to the judge. There were no additional clues that could shed some light on the situation, and the judge's poor memory wasn't helping. Kosick's status as a judge had been changed to inactive earlier in the year when he started taking memory loss medication. Could these health issues have been the cause of the mysterious incident? If it wasn't for the two teenagers, Ionesco and Delvecchio, who knows how many days and cold nights Judge Kosick would have spent in the woods. The two teenagers were an important part of the investigation, and they were even recognized by U.S. Marshal Martin Payne for their contribution and bravery. After the situation settled, the police officers came to the most logical solution to the mystery. It was most likely that Kosick had suffered from memory loss at the moment he was driving the car. He ended up crashing the car into a log, and since he couldn't remember where he was, he immediately became disoriented. Being alone in the woods must have frightened him, so after wandering off about 100 yards from the car, he collapsed onto the ground and stayed there for 2 whole days. We're very thankful to these two young men that they saw this vehicle happen to be in this area. Fortunately, Payne said during an interview for Fox News in April 2017. After all, the two boys were responsible for the positive outcome of the situation. During the broadcast, Delvecchio responded with, "We're glad he's okay, glad that we could help out." He also added that he would like to become a police officer one day. Even though they saved the life of a 92-year-old man, the two boys didn't see themselves as heroes. As Delvecchio had said for the Times Tribune, they were only fortunate enough to be at the right place at the right time. The two teenagers were glad that they were able to take part in the case and help find the old man. If they hadn't investigated the car in the first place, this story would have had a completely different ending. The boys didn't know anything about Judge Kosick before finding the car, but after the incident, they wanted to get to know him. According to a report by Fox News, the boys planned to meet up with the judge after his recovery. They also took time to visit the old man in the hospital to make sure he was okay. After all, this whole situation was very meaningful to them as well. It was time to give these two brave teenagers credit for what they had done. Many teenagers wouldn't even bother to stop and look at the car on the road, but Ionesco and Delvecchio did far more than that. The boys went out of their way to look for clues inside the car and come up with the possible scenario behind the abandoned vehicle. They didn't only discover the vehicle, but they also informed the police officers on all the details they found at the scene. Who knows how this story would have ended if it were someone else in their position. In the end, the two teenagers were happy that they were able to help save a life. Even though they never really found out what had happened at the scene, they were happy to know that the old man was found alive. It seemed that Kosick's memory loss issue caused the whole incident. The man forgot where he was and got lost on his way home. As sad as this story sounded to them, the two boys were happy that everything turned out okay. Both Kosick and his son were extremely thankful to the boys for what they had done. Kosick's son Michael said, "I don't know how I can ever repay them for helping to bring my father back to me. If it wasn't for the boys and their dedication to solving the case, the community would have lost an honorable judge and Michael would have lost his father. Saving someone's life wasn't the kind of act that you can get away with without receiving a reward." The two boys, Joe Delvecchio and Alec Ionesco, were honored in Lackawanna County for helping find the missing federal judge. They received a proclamation from county commissioners at Dunmore High School in a ceremony that was held in front of their parents, friends, and schoolmates. Meanwhile, Judge Kosick had been released from the hospital. As he was recovering quite fast, he made sure not to miss the proclamation ceremony at the school. He proudly watched the boys receive the credit they deserved for saving his life. He even added, "It was an honor to watch them receive their award. I'm sat here today because of them."